why giving up works when we're trying to manifest something. Hi, my name is Leah Chantel. Welcome back to my channel. And today I'm explaining why giving up actually works when we're manifesting or trying to achieve our goals. So why does it work? Well, the number one reason why giving up works is because we have the wrong priorities in the first place that don't align with our authentic selves. That's right. When we're growing up, we get programmed with many artificial priorities that we're told are critical for our survival, when indeed they are not critical to our survival. The number one thing that we get programmed and told to do is that we need to finish a university degree or a trades program in a practical field that's going to earn us money. So that's the number one artificial priority that people tend to work towards, and that's how they get off into the wrong direction in life sometimes. They may be successful initially, they may get their dream job out of school, but sooner or later they come up against a wall in their careers and they can't understand why. Maybe it's because they can't ascend past a certain level in middle management, or maybe it's more traumatic than that. Maybe they get downsized and they're struggling to get along with the management or to understand why that happened. And one of the reasons why this happens is because you had the wrong priority and you made the wrong choices in the first place when you went to university. You didn't follow your heart and you followed your brain instead. So people are going to be like, well, Leah, I already finished my degree. Thanks a lot for this advice. I can't go back and redo it. Which I'm not saying, if you didn't know this information before, there's nothing wrong with having a university degree in a practical field. I mean, that's fantastic. But that's the reason why sometimes we hit a wall in our careers and we can't continue to manifest or achieve our goals and dreams. It's because our original intention wasn't authentic in the first place. We formed it when we were very young to try to impress parents or our peers. And now we're just realizing later in life what our true authentic priorities are. And there's nothing wrong with that. I found this out as early as my 20s, actually, that I needed a more authentic career path, and there was nothing wrong with what I'd studied. In fact, I loved what I studied. I mean, I was very passionate about it. I'm a librarian, and I still love books to this day. Oh my gosh, I borrowed like 12 recently. And it's still a part of who I am authentically, but I realized that there was more to the world than just libraries and books, and that I needed to allow more talents to come through, and I needed to start on more entrepreneurial efforts as an adult. And there was nothing wrong with what I'd done in the past, but it was time to shift gears. And so that's how I got onto the path that I'm on now. And that's why giving up sometimes works when you're manifesting, because you hit a wall and you realize your priorities weren't authentic in the first place. They came from a time when you were being programmed to follow a certain path. And so now you're shifting gears. Here's priority number 2 that can be quite artificial and why giving up on it can allow you to manifest. And the second priority is the desire to get married or have children. And I don't want to make this wrong, because sometimes people really do have this authentic priority and it really works for them. But I think it used to be such a norm in our society that got hammered into everybody that there are a lot of people out there floating around thinking that this is their authentic priority when maybe it's not. And they need to live a life where they're not really tethered to marriage and children. And that doesn't mean that you're like manipulative or you seduce people or anything like that. It just means that you live a more independent life and you're not meant to have a partner or have children. There are some people with a life mission like this, and there's nothing wrong with that. We have to allow people space to be their true selves in our society rather than force them to think that they need to have children and get married in order to fit in with everybody else. And that's another priority that if we give up on, that actually opens up our manifesting. So the first part I wanted to suggest was that we need to give up on certain priorities that are not authentic. And that's what sometimes we need to give up in order to manifest better. But there are other things that we need to give up too. So another thing we need to give up in the process of manifesting is our ego position that we're always right. So We don't like to put ourselves in situations where we're uncomfortable, or we could make a mistake, or we're talking in public and somebody could say that we're wrong or point out that something bad about our speech. But if we're not willing to put ourselves in difficult situations where our ego could potentially be challenged, that can block our manifesting. So we need to give up being in control, and we need to give up our ego's sense of safety and comfort if we truly want to manifest something that we're hoping to achieve. And then the next thing you need to give up when you're trying to manifest is our separation from other people. And what do I mean by this? So when we're trying to achieve something and we're getting blocks sometimes in life, it's because we believe we're separate from the goal. But we really have to visualize that we are enmeshed into the goal, or we are one with the goal. This can apply to having a romantic relationship. Sometimes we're putting our potential partners too high up on a pedestal and believing they're amazing people when maybe really we're not evaluating correctly and they're really not amazing people. But this can happen in business too. We can really worship people that are rich and separate them from us. We can either idolize them as the most amazing people on the planet or vilify them as the most evil people on the planet. And it's kind of the same thing either way. But you're putting them up on a pedestal, whether you think they're the best people in the world or the worst. And when you create that separation in your own mind, it means you're not achieving the goal. You need to be one and the same with the goal in order to achieve the goal. And if you're not willing to be in the same energetic frequency or the same space as the thing you're trying to achieve, and you still see it as separate for any reason, because maybe you had emotional traumas when you were a child, maybe your parents said negative things about rich people, maybe society said something bad, like in your church or in your classroom about the wealthy. Wherever it comes from, you have to let go of those beliefs and those separations. It's important to see wealthier people, if you want to achieve wealth yourself, as human. They're neither better than us nor worse than us. You know, we're all the same as human beings. I mean, we're not exactly the same. There are some differences, but it's not a matter of them being better or worse. Let's put it that way. That's like the biggest ego separation, is like that group of people is better or they're worse than me. And you have to get rid of that feeling of separation in order to get closer to the dream that you're trying to achieve. So that's giving up on the separation piece of manifesting. The next thing you might have to give up on is hard work. And you might be like, well, isn't hard work supposed to get me towards my dream? And yes, it can. It can, but there is a point where you can overwork and you can burn out, and then that can actually be counterproductive in achieving your dream. Think about the person who's over preparing for a job interview and they actually come across as quite robotic instead of natural and telling stories and human in an interview. I have made this mistake myself. I've wanted jobs so badly in the past that I've over-researched and overdone it and then ended up sounding like a robot in the interview instead of like my true authentic self. And that was something I realized when I learned to make social media videos, is while I have some ideas about what I want to say in the video, that if I overdo it and over-prepare, I'll actually sound like a robot. And some of my earlier videos, I'm probably guilty of that a little bit. Having said that, I've learned that being a little bit more spontaneous and natural is actually better for my outcomes, rather than being overly ready and overly prepared for a particular topic. And it's the same with job interviews. So when you're working on businesses, you could overdo it in the effort of a specific area where you could hire somebody to help you. So if you're getting help, that's another way of giving up on your manifestation a little bit, because you're giving up control to somebody else in order to have them work on something, and then you're able to delegate that work to them so you can focus on the greater priorities that you're trying to manifest and achieve. So working hard is important. If you work at the right things and you take good care of yourself, yes, it's a good thing. But you don't want to ignore important priorities because you're working too hard at something that doesn't matter. So The next thing you have to give up on when you're trying to manifest something is approval from other people. That's one of the biggest blocks that stops us from achieving wealth or achieving success is we're worried about what people will think of us when we do achieve something in life. And we rather get paid in approval so often when we're unconscious of what our reasons are for going for something or achieving something. We'd rather have approval from our parents or our peers or our partner than to have financial success, which is just crazy. I mean, you'd rather, but it's so true. That's why so many people are poor, because they'd rather be popular and poor rather than wealthy and potentially feel alienated from other people. It's such a huge factor as to why people don't achieve their goals and ambitions in life. And that's another thing you have to give up in order to manifest your goals, dreams, and ambitions. And then the next thing you have to give up sometimes is always being the one taking the first step. Sometimes you have to let other people take initiative on your goals, dreams, and ambitions. And I sort of talked on this when it came to delegation, but other times it's just the universe stepping in to help you. Sometimes you have to have room to have faith and not try to do everything by yourself and know that you're destined for success, rather than try to push and force success on the situation. And that leads me to my next giving up point, is that you have to give up control of the situation. If you're truly close to manifesting something, you have to give up on the possibility of it happening in a way, because you have to give up control and be very easygoing about it. And then I hope you enjoyed my tips and tricks that I shared about what to give up in order to manifest today. If you have any questions, definitely feel free to leave some comments below, and I'll try my best to answer them. And I can't wait to talk to you next week. Take care. Bye now.